Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look here, of course, at Bitcoin, see what's going on here today, and obviously assess the weekend, behavior in addition to anticipating this week's Fed meeting, kind of just taking a look at some of that stuff as well as traditional markets, etc. All right, so all that fun stuff. Of course, just so you know, if you are new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor. Love teaching people to trade. I hope you can learn something here today. And obviously, if you do, comment below, let me know, of course. Nice to know that feedback, but on the same accord, I'm getting a lot of excellent feedback regarding my Trading Academy community and Signal group. Link in the description below if you want to become a member. It's really an awesome opportunity for us to be able to kind of learn and grow as traders. And you can kind of benefit from the signals I send, where I basically share every single trade that I take. And we've been taking some monstrous profits to the downside with some leverage positions, for some shorts with Bitcoin. Because once again, it's not really proven to be, all that reliable in regard to this trend line that we've seen here getting rejected out. So we want to, again, honor the trend. The trend is your friend. We'll look at that here today also. Once again, CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. I do offer military discounts and third world country discounts as well. Feel free to message me. Just ask that you use the content the contact information in the comments section or description rather, and make sure that you don't just reply to a message for that I supposedly send you, because there's a lot of scammers that troll the comments. So just be mindful that I'll never direct message you. All right, so here's kind of where we're at. We'll go ahead and start with the regular stuff. So dollar index pretty much drawn dead. So pretty much dead even, nothing really to worry about there. Very similar example here as well for S&P, NASDAQ. The traditional markets are essentially drawing dead. Everything's kind of just flat and level. There's no gap up, gap downs, which does happen commonly over the weekends. And at this point, no news is good news. That's kind of more neutral in a sense, which could imply that Bitcoin might be on its way back up here soon. And what I mean by that is just simply that we kind of bounced off a support level. We're at that low range of the descending trend. So upside, at least potential upside for a little bit of time, again, not that long, I'm sure, is potential for Bitcoin. All right. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at there, and Bitcoin dominance is, again, pretty much dead even though everything is red. It does imply that there's more money coming into Bitcoin, but again, there's not a lot of volume that really speaks to that just yet. Okay. So again, that's kind of where we're at here so far for Bitcoin. Now, what we want to look at, of course, on the daily is the RSI, because we've been paying attention to that previously, where it's getting close to 50. And once again, when the RSI gets right around 50, it works as a support level and it could effectively bounce. So if we take a look at here, what do you know? Big surprise, RSI is effectively right at 50. So it's testing 50, the lower end of this descending trend, as well as the fact that it bounced close to, I think it bounced off 21,700, but right there at that Fibonacci retracement level, the price kind of came down and bounced. And just to reiterate, the reason why that's important, 21.6, is because we see this level here, pretty much a straight line across, where we had about 6 or 7 trading days within about a 2-week period that could not pass that level. Okay, now that we're above that, hypothetically, that should be the bouncing point. Again, hypothetically, of course, we're not confirmed yet, but we do have some decent support with the RSI, as well as the 20-day set moving average here. But furthermore, the support of 21.6 is holding tentatively strong for the moment. Okay, so that's a good sign. So mostly good here in that sense. We do have a potential MACD divergence on the daily, but I, again, prefer the 4-hour. I think that's more appropriate for the type of trading style that I have. And again, when it comes to different time frames, you got to recognize, certain time frames benefit specific trading styles. So try not to get stuck on just one trading time frame. I think it's also always recommended to look at multiple time frames to extract as much information as you can. That's really just the ultimate idea, because you're making an informed decision that way, right? So that's kind of what we're doing here. So in this sense, just kind of touch on this. There's some stuff here that concerns me, but it's also positive in a small way. So what I mean by that here, first of all, is we got these descending trend. Obviously, you can see that we are stuck in a channel, right? So same as we were before, we were stuck in a channel on the ascending side. So, in essence, right now, this channel is essentially telling us it wants to continue lower. Okay. Now we are close to the bottom of this channel, okay, which is good in a sense, which implies that we're right outside that standard deviation. The price has to correct itself and go sideways here for some time before it makes a leg up or leg down. That said, though, if you look at the RSI, we're now under 50, and we're kind of trending more towards bearish sentiment, which doesn't necessarily tell us that it's going to continue lower. It just tells us that we're going to have a resistance at 50 if the price tries to come back up and pass or retest 22,300. Or 22.2, I think, is a little more specific. It's really close to that number. So generally speaking, we have a significant MACD divergence here. We don't have any potential shift in momentum. So without confirmation, you shouldn't take a position, right? Because I know a long position seems juicy right now. It's like, wow, this is awesome. The price is definitely going to recover because it's overextended to the downside. That's not exactly the case. And in regard to overextension, we can take a look at that too. We can see that we only came really down to a 5 here recently and just got a reset. And previously up to a 5. So let's take a look at these patterns here. So we came up to a 9, big surprise, got rejected really hard at 24,300. Ever since then, it retraced back down to a 5, up to a 6, down to a 8, up to a 5, and down to a 5. So there's a lot of consistencies with the 5s and 6s here. So it really does imply that, hypothetically, we are nearing the bottom of this little downtrend, and then the price could leg up from here. That does kind of tell us that we might see a reversal to the upside. But when I say reversal, I'm not talking about a complete paradigm shift here. We literally have to break above the moving average here on the 4-hour, which is the 50-day moving average, right around 22.5. So until we can get back up over, honestly, 22,500, there's no confirmation we have that the price is going to want to continue to increase. Okay, because again, this descending trend, lower highs, is effectively consistent. Same with lower lows. Okay, do you want to bet against the house? It's up to you. But I don't think it's wise or advisable to take a long position at this point, even though it seems likely that the price will reverse. Okay, again, anything could honestly happen, but there's not like a tremendous amount of confirmation that I see here that gives me any confidence in taking a long position. Again, trends will continue until they don't, and this trend may be at its end, and it might want to continue higher. So I would say, hypothetically, the price comes down to 21.6 and continues to maintain itself. We might want to consider taking a position to the upside at that point, but it feels like it's a little too early, and honestly, this is just I don't know. It doesn't seem, I don't feel so great about this, especially with the Fed meeting tomorrow on the horizon. And that's a big deal, honestly, because that does have a tendency of shooting the price either up or down. So if you're going to be in a trade, just say within 24 to 48 hours from now, make sure you have some trailing stop losses at the very least in place. So once you take your profit, you get that trigger, or just a traditional stop loss would also suffice. Just something to kind of protect yourself. All right. Let's take a look here, of course, at other indications. So first of all, we look kind of at this little trend to the downside. For the most part, it's not really overextending itself, but it's getting close. So in other words, we see we got a 7 back here, came down to retest, came back up to an 8. Came up to a 9, got rejected, came down, of course, down to another 8. And then we see a 7, down to a 9, up to an 8. Really what that's telling us is that it's hitting these specific key levels and reversing itself. Okay. Now, if we look at this current content, this current data here, we can see the price action comes down to a 9, reset, hit up to a 4 instead, and now we're reset down to a 6. So again, that's not telling us a tremendous amount, but what it does imply is that we are closer to the bottom of this downtrend, and a strong shift to the downside, unless there is some unfortunate news tomorrow with the Fed meeting, then we should experience a little upside from here at least. In other words, 21,600 should be the bottom. Again, with things on the horizon here, Fed meetings are always very funky and always very weird, depending on how everybody interprets, specifically those who have the most amount of money, how they interpret that inflation potential. That will absolutely impact the price action, and 21.6 support level is not going to matter at that point if they decide they want to freak out and come back down. But if history is any indication of itself, for the most part, you have an extremely volatile 24-hour period, and then it either chooses a direction up or down. Right now, it makes sense that the price would inevitably come back up just based on us being overextended to the downside, but again, it's not the kind of odds I like to go with. Okay. So again, I'm going to be waiting for some confirmation, honestly, before I want to take a position, especially to the upside. Just based on this natural progression to the downside here, I'm not super convinced that 21.6 will hold, but it does appear, until it doesn't, we kind of got to anticipate that it will, right? That's essentially how trends are. So that being said, we've got some conflicting information here. We've got the price action progressing lower, lower highs, lower lows. That's kind of a fact. But we're coming to this point of contention right at 21,600 with this previous resistance level, now support, and we got to see if it holds. So to me, waiting for it to test that level would be most appropriate. Even though you could argue that it's already been tested, I don't think we're officially there yet. We need a little bit more time to average out this current situation at this current price point. So I know this wasn't very helpful perhaps in a definitive direction, but I can tell you that at this point, when you have no definitive direction, the anticipation is to not take a trade. I mean, that's just me being conservative and a patient trader. I don't mind sitting on my hands for a few days. Honestly, it's not a problem. So try not to overtrade. It's a very common problem for others, and I can tell you it's much better if you don't do that. That said, of course, take a trade cautiously and carefully. Always work within your risk tolerance and make sure that you are respecting yourself, and more importantly, make sure you have a good sound body and a sound mind as well. Those things factor in tremendously to making good informed decisions with trading. All right, those are all things I talk about in my Trading Academy. Obviously, check that out in your own time. Once again, CryptoCache.tech is a site, link in the description below. I certainly hope you had a good learning experience here today. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you again tomorrow for the Fed meeting update. We'll see what happens with that. Exciting stuff. All right, take care. We'll see you then.